Welcome everyone to the Business Day Focus 4.0 live event in partnership with Oracle. Today we're going to be talking about why digital transformation is accelerating and what that means for business. We're all aware of the fact that we're in an accelerating period of what is now being called DX or digital transformation, driven to a large extent by working from home becoming this new normal or next normal or whatever you want to call it. And chief technology officers are faced with a massive challenge of how do we securely extend our business platforms and our tools to employees who are distributed far beyond the traditional workplace. And we know that enterprises will sink or swim by the ability to adapt to this changing paradigm. And that has put cloud technology in the spotlight because cloud is really the foundation or the platform for digital transformation. You can't have one without the other. So it's become the must-have for successful digital transformation and being prepared for the kind of normal that we will experience next. Whether you want to call it abnormal or the next normal, it's going to be the normal. And this webinar is intended to focus on efficient cloud migration, looking at case studies, tools, and platforms, but specifically looking at how data security and operational resilience will drive this conversation. Our own research into cloud and digital migration has shown just how important business continuity and business resilience is going to be. If you have any questions you want to ask our panelists, please post them in the live chat and we'll get around to them a little later in the session. If you are joining us on Twitter, feel free to use the hashtags, and that is hashtag BDF4_CloudTech, hashtag Oracle Cloud, hashtag digital transformation. And you can also tag Oracle_Africa in your post. That's the Oracle Twitter account. But before we get started with our panel discussion, I'm going to hand you over to Niral Patel, the Managing Director of Oracle in South Africa. I've had the privilege of traveling with Niral to Oracle Open World in San Francisco, where he has shared some deep insights as well as helping guide me through what I've learned at Oracle Open World. And with that, we're going to listen to a video that Niral has prepared for us and will give us a good sense and overview of the topic that we're addressing today.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our virtual roundtable on why digital transformation is accelerating and what that means for business people like ourselves and our businesses. Before we get into it, I do want to take this opportunity to welcome back Arthur Goldstruck, who's been a good friend of Oracle. Arthur will be the moderator for today's session, and I'm sure many of you in the tech industry will know Arthur for his many posts on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and the thoughtful articles that he continues to release within the media space. Also a big welcome to the many customers that are on the session today, but also for those that have taken the opportunity to join us in the Q&A sessions and those that will take part in the panel that we will have running through. When I saw that we were going to host a roundtable, typically as you've all become accustomed to virtual meetings, I didn't know how to understand and how this virtual meetings. I didn't know how to understand and how this would work. It took me to believing and knowing and coming to the realization that this is definitely the new normal. Having a roundtable on Zoom, I'm not sure when we'll have a physical roundtable again, but it's important that as we operate through these tough times, that we remain cognizant of being safe as communities, being safe as companies, and ensuring that we practice safety in everything that we do whilst we fight this pandemic that continues to hurt our industries, continues to hurt our economies, and sadly continues to take multiple lives as we go through the process of finding a cure for this pandemic. we've the words or the term "what is the new normal" has become, I think, overused. But the reality is, I don't believe we know what the new normal is. I think on a day-to-day basis, we continue to learn and we continue to embrace, what we feel is the new normal and what works for us individually, what works for us as teams, what works for us as companies, industries, etc. And my belief is, as we go through this on an ongoing basis, we'll become better at it. But what is definitely, I'm confident and sure of, is what was a normal for us many months ago is definitely not going to be normal going for us forward. This pandemic will cause us to change the way we do business. It's already changed the way we interact with each other, as we can see here today. But bigger, it's having a far bigger impact on our industry, and that's the technology industry. It's had a huge impact, obviously, on several industries, and we've seen several industries either flourish through this time. Many, sadly, have also deteriorated. We've seen massive closure of businesses across several industries. We've seen many industries also being really hard hit, where massive reorganizations or retrenchments have had to take place. And I'm talking specifically in South Africa. It's had obviously far larger and bigger impacts across different parts of the world. But coming back to the tech industry and how the pandemic has had an impact on it, we definitely, as Oracle, starting to see digital transformation not only being top of mind for executives in our customer space, but this has become a major topic in the boardroom today. And what was a thought or a plan or a strategy to embrace digital transformation has now become put into practice at a rate of knots. And one of the clear examples is Oracle ourselves. When we announced as a company in South Africa that we were going to take the call of the president that announced that the country will go into level 5 lockdown, we embraced that message. A week before the country went into lockdown, we moved our entire workforce to work from home. Many would think that would be an extremely challenging experience or exercise. In fact, it was quite easy. It was very, very easy and very, very seamless for us across Oracle in South Africa. By the way, across Oracle globally. A very strong partner of ours and who has become a customer of ours has allowed us to have meetings like this and sessions like this, both internally and externally, and that's on Zoom. But more importantly, our business has been re-architected from an applications perspective that has allowed us to take advantage of cloud technology. So moving to work from home, the most challenging experience for me personally was how to reorganize my life at home versus worrying about, will I have the opportunity to approve leave, approve expenses, have the opportunity or the ability to engage with staff or with team members or with our board or with customers or with partners. The most difficult of all was how to manage the household and work around that. And I'm sure we've each got our own examples, but quite a seamless experience for us as employees of Oracle. If I look at what's going on in society and within our customer space, we've heard this this phrase of being data driven. But if I look at just the last couple of months, just how important the notion of having good sets of data in front of us, it's become critical. With the way that we're working, that we're not allowed to obviously interact with each other on a social perspective, and working off of virtual meetings, etc. Having data at our fingertips has been crucial, and that has, not just for us, but for our customers in terms of making really critical business decisions. And as I said earlier, when I opened the session, we've seen the pandemic affect us in so many different ways. And this is why the importance of data at our fingertips, tracking data, always monitoring our data, always listening to data, always watching the trends that are taking place through the data that we are collecting. But more importantly, learning from that data has allowed us to make smarter, more effective and efficient decisions for our businesses. And that's what we've allowed through cloud technology, through OCI, that you'll hear a lot of my colleagues talk through this roundtable session today. We've been able to enable for our customers better decision making, more effective decision making as they go through and find their way through this pandemic with their customers. We've seen what, recently a study was done by the IDC, and when I talk about data and just, the magnitude of data that we're collecting and the importance of making sure that we're able to decipher and make clever decisions out of this data, the IDC is saying that the amount of data that will be created from multiple sources or devices or platforms will reach over 1 trillion gigabytes. I just want to say that again, 1 trillion gigabytes. That is a crazy amount of data that, in less than 3 years, we would be creating on a day-to-day basis. So definitely a lot going on, definitely a lot that we need to think about, a lot that we are continuously learning from in terms of the interactions that we're having. But I'm confident that as we're finding our way and we're pathing a new way of working and living through this pandemic, that we are becoming better, we are becoming smarter, and we are able to make quicker and smarter decisions. As I said earlier, my observation is digital transformation journeys for our customers are paramount and top of mind. I've seen organizations that have, with respect to them, that have stagnated or procrastinated on moving their organization to digital. A lot of those organizations are struggling today, but those that have embraced it over the last couple of years and have made digital the backbone of who they are as an organization, they're actually flourishing. And we are definitely helping those that have embraced it, those that are struggling. We're trying to make this an easy journey, an easy path to success for these organizations. And while I say that, we're definitely seeing more and more organizations moving business critical workloads to the cloud faster today than ever before, for a number of reasons. They're starting to quickly see the value of cloud. They're starting to see the billions of dollars that organizations like Oracle are putting into research and development, where there is so much investment that we're putting into these platforms, that they are trusting the platforms that we are putting out there, that has artificial intelligence built into it, machine learning built into it. For example, it's driving autonomous execution of their processes, whereby this is reducing human error, where we know currently organizations' balance sheets and income statements are far stretched, that a small mistake that could bring an organization's environment down, no longer would be something that an organization could write off. It could mean that it puts out that organization out of business altogether. And this is what we're seeing, that the uptake of autonomous technology that is built into the Oracle platforms is being embraced so quickly, locally and globally per se, purely because it's eliminating the era of, it's eliminating the human involvement, whereby innocent mistakes are taking place, bringing down organizations that are costing organizations resources and money that today they cannot afford to do so. If I expand on that point, as organizations are embracing the digital transformation journey and accelerating this journey for themselves, a couple of real important topics or points are coming up as they consider these strategies. As we're getting around and talking to more and more organizations around their digital transformation strategy and journey, three crucial points are hovering around the boardroom today. This is around data strategy, cybersecurity, and choice of deployment. What makes me very proud is across these three key elements that chief digital officers, CFOs, CIOs are grappling with today, Oracle offers very robust solutions in this space. I spoke a lot about the importance of data strategy and the conversations that we are involved with. And I'm sure through the session, we'll hear a lot from our customers and many of you that have joined us today, where you'll share a little bit about what you're grappling around in terms of data strategy. But the net of data strategy is the importance of having data at your fingertips to make smart, quick, and efficient decisions. Without that, as I said, the wrong decision could be made. In the current climate that we're operating, that could mean the end of an organization. I want to move to cybersecurity because, whilst we move our clients to the cloud in different flavors of form, security has become paramount and equally top of mind to the CFO, the CDO, the CIO, the CTO. And why do I say that? All of you will know that, as digital transformation has become embraced, well, criminal activity, cyber criminal activity has also been on the rise, and never higher before in the history of us operating in the space or in the tech world. Cyber criminals have become smarter in terms of how they're hacking organizations, how they enter organizations, what do they take, how long are they in organizations, and therefore cybersecurity is absolutely crucial in making these decisions. But there again, on Oracle Cloud infrastructure, the security standards that we have put in place are second to none, and my colleagues will talk about that and share more about that as we go through the session. And then the last is about choice of deployment. We allow our customers to decide how they want to deploy and move their organizations and transform their organizations to the cloud. We believe it's not a one-size-fits-all. We leave the option of choice to the client, and we work with our clients to ensure that we find the correct recipe or mix for them that makes sense for their business. And that has allowed us to get a lot more closer to our customers, understand them and them understand us better. Because at the end of the day, this cloud journey is based on one thing, and that's trust. Trust being both ways, us definitely knowing what's paramount to our customers and them having the trust in us that we have the ability, the platforms in order to deliver against that. I'd like to spend a very brief moment on what will define Oracle in South Africa and the future of Oracle in South Africa going forward. And that's effectively Oracle Global's investment into Oracle South Africa and this marketplace for South Africa and for Africa. And you'll see a lot more coming out from us related to our plans around localizing a cloud instance in South Africa. We're well on our way in executing those plans, and we will be going live in our financial year if our plans continue to stay on course. We will be switching on and going live with a localized data center in South Africa that will serve South African clients as well as African clients. And that will be a defining moment, not just for Oracle Global, but for us, Oracle in South Africa, but more importantly, for our customers and partners alike, that will be able to take advantage of this massive investment that we're making in the country. So with that, I do want to hand over to our moderator and our MC for the day, Arthur. As I said earlier, it's always a pleasure to share a screen, if I may. No more sharing a stage for the short, hopefully for the short little while ahead, but to share a screen with you and hand over to you, which I'm sure we'll have a very informative roundtable with you, as well as our colleagues from our customers that have joined and our other Oracle colleagues that are with us here today. So thank you, and we'll converse through the rest of the session.
Thank you, Niral, for those deep insights. I think you've given us a really good understanding of why the new normal or the next normal is not only about digital transformation, but the acceleration, the speeding up of digital transformation. And that's why the theme of Fast Forward is so appropriate. And to unpack that theme and to discuss it further, I'm now going to introduce our two panel members, Shireen Pillay, Cloud Sales Leader for Oracle, and Johan Pretorius, the General Manager for Enterprise Performance Management at MTN. And the two of them represent the two aspects of the new normal and the acceleration of that normal in South Africa, and namely the dependence on databases, the cloud, and remote access on the one hand, and on the other hand, the tools and the access that will give you that route into the cloud and into working from anywhere. My personal perspective is that it's no longer work from home, but rather work from anywhere, because wherever you are, you're going to have to be accessible and you will need access. So on that note, I'm going to ask Johan to answer the first question around Fast Forward, referring to the notion that digital transformation is accelerating. Johan, what is your perspective of why that is happening?
Arthur, I think the key change has come about this year, the whole work from home situation, which has been forced on most companies. Because the tools and the technologies have existed in the past, they were always available. But I think the necessity came around when all of a sudden with the lockdowns, people couldn't go to the office and you were almost forced to work remotely. Now, most companies, I think, were well prepared for it. There were no major disruptions at most companies, but I think some of the operating models weren't well suited for working remotely. So I think the necessity where it's actually just indispensable for companies to be able to work remotely has really accelerated the whole process. But then there's also a large part of remaining competitive, because if your competitors can work remotely and adjust their models quicker than you can, you're falling behind these days. And I think for MTN, there was a big push to see how we can benefit from the new normal and what's the new capabilities out there. Because even though we were all dreaming about data-driven decision-making and those things, it's how do you actually empower your end user to use the advanced capabilities, to use predictive planning, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and what's the tools that you need to put in place for them to be able to utilize that.
And all of that is clearly driven by data, and we're not talking about the data you need to access the internet, but rather the data that informs and drives the business. And on that note, I'd like to ask you, Shireen, what is the new normal or the next normal? And if we say the future is data-driven, what does that mean for enterprises and your customers in particular?
Okay. Arthur, to tell you the truth, what are we doing right now? This is the next norm, right? Did we ever think that we would be in a virtual webinar or virtual event, right? The world has changed, Arthur, and I believe the next norm is here. Already as we see enterprises moving forward, there's a combination of working from home as Johan mentioned, and essential meetings taking place at the office or around physical spaces, right, like coffee shops. The reality is what we've been doing for the last 6 months, where companies have started to restructure themselves and to adapt to what we're calling the next normal, right? This pandemic has changed our lives, including, large enterprises had to force themselves to adapt and think differently, with different mindsets. Enterprises require data to be easily and securely accessible, right, at all times, and to ensure that the employees and their customers have that pleasant experience, that pleasant user experience, right? And this is the next norm. We say next normal, but the reality is we don't know because there's so much of uncertainty around us right now. When we say what is the future and is it data-driven and what does it mean for the enterprise? In today's world, typically the ability to quickly create value from different types of data increasingly provides enterprises a competitive edge, like Johan just mentioned, right? If MTN does not adapt and become competitive, they're going to lose their business, they're going to lose their customers, right? So enterprises will have to quickly adapt and create that competitive edge. An excellent example is how we respond, how the responsive, personalized, and a portable food delivery app might be. Look at Mr. Delivery. So it's an awesome app, right? And that's what has happened and what is created during this time that has changed the different mindsets. This means enterprises need to make strategic decisions based on data analysis and interpretation. Data-driven approaches enables companies to examine and organize their data with the goals on how to better serve their customers and employees, right? Using data-driven approaches, companies will be able to identify trends which will make them more informed and provide them with better solutions and highlight possible innovations, that they could actually take to market to sort of enable their business during this different or the next norm, right? And for me, I think the key is around using insights from data to take advantage of data-driven applications. And that's where Oracle plays a very, very important part because we build data-driven applications and we use modern developments and paradigms and we deploy flexible, scalable, and reliable platforms. Organizations need to also look at accelerating their journey to cloud in order to digitalize quickly and effectively with the rise of this pandemic.
Shireen, I'd like to scrutinize your comments a little further. Mm-hmm. What you're saying really is that the next normal is really the now normal. But what does come next? What does the enterprise of the future look like? And are enterprises prepared for the expectations of what's coming next?
As Johan mentioned, artificial intelligence, machine learning are now embedded in our daily lives, right? The reality is whether it's a selection of films recommended by preferred streaming services or a list of suggested featured products to buy, online shopping carts, these features are using algorithms to basically predict what consumers actually based on past and previous behavior, right? And what are consumers looking for now? Especially with COVID-19, this has given us all a view of what the future is going to look like, where almost everyone will be basically digitally interacting, right? And there will be changes in the competitive landscape. Customers' consumption patterns and the macroeconomic changes means that the digital is the fabric of the future, right? And we're seeing that now so often where people are creating so many different applications because we're working from home. Enterprises and people are becoming a lot more innovative. So the reality is enterprises now will need to strive towards innovation. They need to start using intelligence to be able to get better. And I believe some organizations, as Johan mentioned, they're already in the process of digital transformation. But this pandemic has forced them, right, to start accelerating the space. In order to survive, Arthur, they need to keep their organizations up and running Working from home has also opened the doors to cyber attacks and security issues, right? And as a result, people had to think they have to be bold in their digital actions. They need to keep themselves relevant, and they need to also have that competitive edge. And using vendors like Oracle, these are the organizations that will help get them refocus their digital efforts towards changing their customer experience, aligning the organization to new digital priorities, also allowing them to use new data to analyze and how they can improve their operations, right? And the most important thing is modernizing technology capabilities. If you're not going down that route, your organization is going to suffer. And I think most importantly, they need to assess where the organization impacts is and where the remote working models can drive productivity.
Shireen, our own journey from our company's perspective into the cloud began 10 years ago when we had a massive systems failure, and on the basis of a crisis, we had to find a solution, and we migrated to the cloud on the basis of that. So we were ready for what came now, but that was forced on us by a crisis. This year, we've seen the entire world forced by crisis into making that a migration. So with that, we know come many challenges, and we understand what the challenges have been in the past, but now the scale of the crisis must surely change the scale of those challenges as well. What are the challenges that your customers are talking about and experiencing in this new environment and this fast-forward world?
So Arthur, some of the, you're absolutely right. And look at it, it took a catastrophe for you to change, right? And this was 10 years ago, right? And if you look at now, this pandemic has forced organizations, forced people to start adapting and thinking differently. And what are some of the challenges that I see customers are facing? How they link their digital strategy to the business strategy. There's a gap there. I think specifically improving to maintain the quality of data and how they can actually make full use of data, right? Getting data governance right is an issue for some large enterprises, and I'm sure Johan, you can attest to this, right, around the data governance, and also solving the resource gap, right? The reality is we have a skills issue in South Africa, and there is a genuine resource gap. And how do we get that resolved? What are some of the things that we need to do to put in place to solve and bridge the resource gap? And I think the other thing is around, customers harnessing their data to anticipate what the customer's needs. And the most important one, Arthur, is security, right? As I said, customers are hesitant to move to cloud because the first question they ask you, how secure is your cloud? Is it protected? Does it have all of the features? Because of us working from home and there's sensitive applications that we are touching, and having these applications in cloud, how protected? And I think that's one thing Oracle does very well, that our cloud comes with all of the security enabled measures, right? So from a digital transformation, it's more than simply moving your CRM and ERP into cloud. To achieve the desired aims and innovation, and especially around agility and profitability, and customers are looking for lower cost to serve, enterprises need to make changes across the entire business landscape. These changes will enable them, to be able to leverage the data and the insights across multiple domains to run this efficient businesses and to monetize business opportunities. So for me, these are some of the challenges, but also customers need to, or organizations and large enterprises need to take a different approach, especially with what we're going through now with this pandemic.
There's no question about that. And that brings us back to what Johan was saying earlier with regard to all the new technologies. I know from our side, the most powerful tools that we've been able to use have been those that have taken over many of our manual processes. And that has helped transform the business in a way that cloud only begins to address. So Johan, turning to you, when it comes to business processes, how can simplification and automation be enabled? What are the tools, but also what are the challenges in this environment?
I think so. On business processes, I think most of them deal directly with business challenges. So a lot of your business processes are fairly simple to standardize, because paying an invoice is paying an invoice irrespective of the industry. But I think linking that into your larger business cycle and understanding the impact of that, of planning in advance, knowing what your cash flow impacts, measuring all of the impacts of the process, that's where it gets more complicated. And I think a key thing we found is that we really need to focus on the innovation and the collaboration between teams. So in the past, we had a big focus on DevOps in the IT space, where the developers and the support personnel would be aligned closer together. But that's really transitioned now to where business and IT is realigning. And as Shireen said, it's about linking your digital and business strategies, making sure that business drives the IT initiatives, and then that IT also adjusts so that they deliver in an agile, incremental method, and you continuously improve the processes. It's not only about having the technology, but I think more importantly, also taking the people with. And that also, as Shireen said, there's a major skills gap that you need to address in that. And I think some of the potential solutions are around aligning business with IT so that you have that cross-skilling happening at that level, but also empowering the end users so that they know where to find additional information, where to find the tutorials, and how to upskill themselves. Because the cloud journey and the whole digital transformation journey is really about lifelong learning and continuous learning. It's not something where you just go and understand a few concepts and then you can use the package. It's really understanding the fundamentals of what's changing and what's the fundamental output of a business process. And then if the end users have a deep understanding and the customers have a intuitive understanding of the application, it's a lot easier to then make small incremental changes because they still understand what's the intended outcome.
Johan, you used one of my favorite words, which is people, because ultimately it's not only about the technology, but about the people. And you also used another important word, which is customers. So in that context, customers are driving digital transformation in many ways because you have to keep servicing those customers. So in that context, what would you see as the most important points that businesses must consider in their transformation strategy?
So I think when we talk about customers, I just also want to say that I mean, we really picked up that one of our key stakeholders are the employees. And the sooner you start also treating them as customers and making sure that their work experience is also important. I think the thing is with the customer interaction, it's all around communication and almost creating the anticipation of the changes. The communication strategies, I don't think it's about a continuous stream or anything, but it's more around setting, communicating changes earlier, and then also informing users and upskilling them in the process, so that your customers and your internal users are all comfortable with the changes, but also that they realize what's in it for them. Because with a lot of the changes, you are letting go of patterns and behaviors of the past, but you must realize what's the change, what's the benefits in the change for you to really enforce adoption. But I think what we've found, I'm more internally focused than externally focused, but we had a big drive around standardization for the last 2 years, where we started with standardizing the reporting for all management packs and then moving on to reference data and the chart of accounts. Now we're on a big drive on standardizing the platforms. But all of that leads to standardizing behavior. And that is, I think, the holy grail almost of these processes, to ensure that the end user benefits from the processes which you incorporate in your strategies.
No question about that. Shireen, turning back to you and talking about the experience and also about the autonomous processes that enable the security, especially of this environment. Can you give us an insight into how secure this future is that we're moving into? And also, what are some of the security challenges, and how does technology help businesses protect data in the midst of those challenges?
In my opinion, the future of information security is built around blockchain technologies, artificial intelligence, crowdsourcing, and global security corporations. Right? Many organizations will utilize two or more of these this particular options, right? To basically show the enterprises many combined. Sort of a combined artificial intelligence to detect security vulnerabilities, and with crowd testing to confirm the detected vulnerabilities. Right. Furthermore, companies can store and find, using blockchain records and share them with other companies based on global cybersecurity cooperation agreements. Security has always been in the news, whether security with people themselves or with that of data. And if you look at Zoom, right, Oracle is one of the largest users of Zoom. Zoom managed to successfully navigate and scale up its usage volume, in a short space of time. But it also ran into security gaps, right, which they immediately addressed and they immediately attended to. And I can attest, we use Zoom every day of our lives, and we have a great experience around it, and we've not had any challenges. So many organizations, experience similar painful lessons, and especially during this crisis, if we look, the challenges that they have around cybersecurity, with the increasing overlap between working from physical and virtual worlds, and also the information exchange, the regulation and compliance, the lack of IT skills, as Johan mentioned, are key to the uncertainty about the future of data explosion, right? And these are some of the issues that people are facing around the security. And in order for them to actually basically get to where they want to, they need to rapidly react to threats and change the use of process automation. To gain efficiency with automation, they need to ensure they simplify the automation and take action, right? Future-proof investments to modernize the ecosystem. Forbes mentioned that the role of the CIO and the CISO is changing and growing, because the importance around security is no more optional, right? It's actually increased the awareness of privacy and data. So for me, security has to be top in every organization, and especially because of the way the next normal has happened, right? With the virtual and physical world, and with sensitive data that users and customers are now touching. So security has to be top priority for most of the organizations, and they need to take the relevant action to make sure that the organizations are well protected.
I'm going to follow on from that very comment with a couple of audience questions before I move on to my next prepared question. And that is from Bronwyn firstly, whether there are preventative measures on cybersecurity for how businesses can safeguard themselves against potential hackers. And then Simbarashi asks, how secure is cloud storage? And I'd like to ask you to address those questions in the context of what challenges you see around cloud adoption in this next normal.
So top of mind at cloud adoption challenges, it's all about security. And, Bronwyn mentioned, the question around security. Enterprise asks all the time, how secure is cloud? Security risks of cloud computing has become the reality for every organization, be it small or large, right? And that is why it's important to implement a secure BI tool that can leverage the proper measures around security, right? What I'm seeing from a security challenge is around the lack of resources and expertise. For the longest time, there has been the lack of resources, and a number of them have voiced their challenges around not having the right skills when it comes to cloud. And companies and enterprises are facing that today, right? Organizations are increasingly placing more workloads onto cloud. And while cloud technologies are continuously, they're basically growing and advancing all the time, right? And due to these factors, organizations have to have tough times keeping up with the tools, like Johan mentioned earlier on. There's many tools. In fact, some organizations have too many tools, right? And these are something that organizations need to assess and look at how they can continually grow by downscaling and leveraging the cloud to sort of maximize through the additional training of IT and developing their staff. So, and especially from a CIO perspective, he needs to be the champion to help the cloud adoption. I think the other challenge from a cloud adoption perspective is managing spend, right? The next part of cloud computing, it's around the risks involved around cost, right? Most part of the cloud computing, business can save money, but in the cloud, it depends on how you ramp up, and these large investments around new hardware, business can instantly access processing through pay-as-you-go models or publicly provided cloud, right? However, the on-demand and the scalable nature of cloud makes it sometimes difficult to define around the cost complications. So that's the other area around managing the spend for cloud. And then governance and control, right? There are many challenges, facing cloud computing and governance, and also control. A lot of organizations like control of of their environments, but with cloud, they feel that having it somewhere else, sitting in somebody else's data center, they don't have that control anymore. But the reality is, if to ensure that the IT assets are implemented and used accordingly, there's proper policies and procedures that are put in place to maintain proper controls and to maintain, the organization's strategy and business goals around the cloud and around governances and control, right? So for me, these are some of the key things. And also, sorry, Arthur, not forgetting security, right? That was the first point we touched around security. So these are some of the challenges that organizations, where they're reluctant to actually adopt cloud because they find, the management of spending, security, these are some of the issues. And just to summarize, the biggest benefit of businesses, it's faster time to market when they go to cloud, and also simplified innovation. It's easier to scale up and down. There's a lot of risk, you can be reduced when you go onto cloud platforms, and also cloud platforms can help deploy the new digital customer experience in days, rather than months with traditional infrastructure, right? And it also can support analytics. And also that, it simplifies impossible from a traditional perspective. It simplifies the process a lot more. So there's a lot of value around going cloud, but just there are some resistance, And one thing I can tell you, Oracle, in terms of the governance, the control, the compliance, we've have all of these elements built into our cloud to ensure that our customers are well protected when they go into the cloud, the Oracle cloud journey.
Shireen, one of the highlights of Oracle Open World for me last year was when Larry Ellison unveiled a world map showing the new Oracle cloud regions or availability regions across the world. And there on the map was a big red dot on South Africa. So that data center is coming here soon. What impact will that have in this environment?
Thank you, Arthur, for mentioning that. And we all are very excited. Yes. Our data center will be coming shortly. I think the biggest benefit, the South African data center will provide to our customers, there's many advantages, right? Significant improved connectivity from speeds and latency issues. It'll provide high quality data security, and the response will be up to 10 times faster than our competitors, right? And one thing we can guarantee is a low cost, and also it will be trusted security, amongst other things. Customers will have access to the cloud infrastructure services. We've got 3 pillars in cloud, which is your infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and a software as a service, and including our Oracle Autonomous Database, right? That is our flagship, and the Oracle Fusion applications. Ultimately, the data center will allow customers the ability to harness the power of Oracle Cloud to unlock innovation and business growth. Oracle is fully committed to the needs of our customers to ensure that we have the true business continuity, disaster protection, and meet the security and compliance requirements. So, mentioning that our data center is potentially going to land sometime next year. We're still busy. We should be making some press release within the next couple of months and announcing to the public that we will be landing our data center in country, but it will definitely land sometime next year. We haven't finalized that. We're going through our internal processes, but as soon as that has been defined, we will then publicly announce when the data center will land next year.
That's exciting, a lot to look forward to, but also a lot of decisions to be made by chief information officers and other members of the C-suite. Johan, what are your top tips and advice for CIOs or CXOs running organizations in this next normal?
Arthur, the chief one I wrote down is just, I think we need to get comfortable with change. I don't think there's an end in sight for the volatility that's happening in the market and the economies and the environment. So I think it's really about having agile plans, which you can stress test, see what's the potential outcomes, and almost try and preempt what's the next big change is going to be. But you need to understand your core capabilities. You need to know what you can use and harness, who you can partner with to assist upskilling your workforce to cater for all the change that's coming. But I think the key thing is around that. We need to be comfortable with the change, comfortable with the uncertainty, because I don't think it's going away anytime soon.
Can you give us an insight into some of the future trends that you see as a result of this next normal?
I think there's been a definite change in the spending patterns from our customers, but the fundamental needs remain the same. So I think it's how you service those needs that will change over time. There's a big move towards mobility, access from anywhere, as you said right at the beginning. It's the ability to work from anywhere, but also to for commerce to be conducted from anywhere. It's no longer restricted to shops and physical locations. And I think it's about how you string together all your potential sales channels, linking that up into your back office to make sure that you have lean and efficient processes so that you can easily adjust those to meet any new opportunities. Because I think with any change, there's always also potential opportunities. And I mean, MTN, I think, is one of the few companies where our last quarter was one of our best in a number of years. Just because we had the ability to reroute capital expenditure where we could realize revenue quickly. And I think that the more companies start adapting agile platforms, utilizing new technologies, the more you can benefit from the opportunities that arise in crises.
That leads us very neatly into a question from an audience member. Derek asks, is South Africa ready for cloud migration when we are still quite far behind the rest of the world in terms of basic technologies that are yet to be implemented? Johan, I think you're in a perfect position to answer that question.
I think, yes. I think MTN started subscribing to Oracle Cloud Services 5 years ago. We've already rolled out a number of applications across our footprint. The first thing with cloud is it's not that different to on-premise. But I think a lot of people see it almost like an evolution where you must progress through the stages before you reach cloud. Where actually it's a lot like in the telecommunication business. We always saw that the mobile phones is almost just a step ahead. You don't have to first have a landline before you can use a cell phone. And the same's happening with cloud. I think if you jump to cloud, you immediately benefit from the best-in-class performance and capabilities. And the user interfaces, the capabilities are very user-friendly because it's targeted at a global audience. It's not highly technical solutions. It's solutions that works in a number of industries, and therefore it works quite well for MTN.
Great. Shireen, I'm going to ask you a more technical question from Joe. What would be the difference between a managed server and a cloud solution? Are they the same or similar in any way?
What would be the difference between a managed server? So probably they're referring to our cloud customer. So basically, they're not the same. So we have Oracle Cloud, which is a cloud infrastructure, which is a full cloud solution. And then we have something called Oracle Managed Cloud, which is a hybrid solution. So you have an on-premise, like some government customers, they're sensitive around their data. So you could have that available on-prem, and then you could have part of the workload sitting in cloud. So we give you that hybrid offering. So that's what's basically the managed services. So you can locally or in your data center manage a certain requirements, and you can manage certain requirements via the cloud. I hope that answers this question.
Yes, thank you. And then a question from Chepa, which is also about security, and has been partly answered by you, Shireen, but I'm going to ask Johan to answer this from the perspective of a major organization that has got massive exposure to the public and to the world. Chepa asks, with more and more data being stored at single data points that are connected to the web, does that not pose a security threat in terms of serious cyber breaches? And I think that's also in the context of major corporations in South Africa, in the insurance world in particular, having had breaches because they have got so many points of exposure.
The security is certainly a concern. And I don't think anyone wants to make light of it, seeing that there has been a number of breaches. But our experience has also been that with Oracle having quite a number of security experts dedicated to that, looking after it for international customers, the level of security supplied through cloud is equal to or exceeds the security you can implement yourself. As long as you follow the best practice patterns and you follow the guidance of Oracle to use the software in its intended way, the security you obtain through using cloud, like I say, we all use online banking, we all use online applications, and the security around that has proven almost foolproof. With the enterprise security, you want a similar level of confidence in it, and we haven't had any issues or concerns since we've started migrating to cloud. So yes, we are only at the moment hosting mainly back office data centers in the cloud. So it's not the CRM data sets yet, because there's bigger issues around data sovereignty and how you deal with that with the regulators. But even from a back office perspective, I mean, it's still business critical data, highly confidential around suppliers, your performance, your financials. And we haven't had any issues with cloud. And I think the contrary is actually happening, that there's a higher level of confidence sometimes in moving it to a cloud platform, in that you know what is the base level of security you obtain there. Where if you do it in your local data center, the checks and balances needed to make sure it's behind the right firewall, and it's got the right certificates, and you've got the right level of encryption. All of that's now taken care of for you. So we don't have any concerns with security at the moment.
Thanks, Johan. You used another of my two favorite words, which is best practice. And I think that really sums up what the key approach is to this new normal and the next normal. And that is a best practice when you embrace digital transformation. There are, of course, many best practices. And I hope that the audience has enjoyed some of the insights into those best practices. Thank you, Johan. Thank you, Shireen, for joining us and sharing your deep knowledge and insights with the viewers. And thank you to the audience. Thank you for joining us this morning. And just so that you know that a recorded session will be available, and you will receive a mailer that will give you details. So keep your eye out for that. And a special thank you to Oracle for their partnership in their event. Don't forget to register for the next Business Day Focus 4.0 live, taking place on 12th of November 2020. And more information on this webinar is available on the Business Day Focus 4.0 website where you registered for this event. It's been a pleasure speaking to you all and interacting with our panel today. And I, for one, look forward to the next normal. I hope that it's a smooth transition and a smooth journey for everyone here. Thank you very much.